Hello and welcome to another episode of the Homebrew Pub, the only pub in existence where every beer on tap is made by a homebrewer. And on this ethereal plane, the Homebrew Pub will turn into the guest brewer's perfect brew pub. So please come in, grab a stool, and grab a pint. This week, we welcome to the Homebrew Pub Ramon Strauss. Ramon, how are you?
Hi Andrew, how you doing? No, very excited, very excited. Thank you so much for inviting me to the podcast.
Absolutely, and welcome to this mystical, ethereal pub that only exists in our minds. So, you are part of Venture Brewing Homebrew Club, which you have on YouTube?
Yes, absolutely, yes. And we are a club also. I think we can relate to your podcast because it's in the ethereal world. We have no paperwork, we have no membership, no nothing. So we're a group about. It depends on a given day. We could be 10, 12, or 15. But the core group, the way this really started is I'm a relatively new home brewer, especially compared to probably your other guests or people that you know. I did my first brew, all extract brew, February of 2020. So
Oh, wow.
1 month before the shutdown.
That was the right time to get into the hobby.
Exactly. And the way that worked out was I like beer. I've been thinking about it for a while. I live in the Houston area, which is, it's there are so many breweries and so many micro or larger craft brewers. I think I read an statistic there are like 65 in the whole metropolitan area,
Oh, wow.
which is crazy. And I probably been on 20 of those, and so I was always interested, but never really got my feet on it. And then a coworker and a very good friend of mine, that his name is Dan Havrish. He had been brewing for like 15 years, and we worked together. And one day I say, you know what? I really want to get into this brewing thing. So I bought a kit. I went to his house, and we brew it. And I realized, that I could do this. And then, like he will say, then I went completely overboard. And then I wanted to learn absolutely everything about it. I got every book, I watched every YouTube channel. I got pretty obsessed with it. But so he and I were working together in something that is called a venture. So the name was kind of like a jokey thing,
Yeah.
like, hey, we should be venture brewing, and that's how it all started, right? And from that point forward, we start. I keep on brewing. He introduced me to steeping grains techniques, for example, and then partial mashes techniques. But interestingly enough, he had never done an all grain. So we did extra brewing for like a year and a half
Yeah.
before we started to make the jump, and we started getting the philosophy of coming up with our own extract recipes, our own, selecting specialty malts. And then, of course, I became obsessed with yeast. And I wanted to do yeast starters, and I wanted to propagate yeast from commercial beers.
Oh,
And then,
wow.
and then we brew in very simple equipment. We had just pots and pans and buckets. We did not have a fermentation chamber. So at the summer roll in, we start struggling. Because the house is at 80 degrees during the day. And
Yeah.
so that's how we got into Kvike, and that became a new obsession.
Yeah.
That the Kvike is like the godsend for home brewers in hot weather.
Yeah.
And I think 90% of our brews are Kvike on it, unless we need to be very specific. And that's how the group started. And then some people start coming in, and some of my friends, and until the point that I really discover reading Randy Mosher's book. He has a chapter on home brewing internationally, and I read a chapter about Argentina and this mythical brew called Dorada Pampeana,
Hmm.
which loosely translates like Pampas golden. The Pampas are the plains in Argentina. And I started researching and realized that even though it's a BJCP brew, it's in the 2015, it's in the group 18 on the American Pale Ales.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really that much information. All I knew was that they were using local ingredients and basically didn't have access to many options in terms of yeast or specialty malts. So they have to kind of get extremely creative. And finally, I was able to find this YouTube channel from a guy called Nico Cervecero in Argentina. And he, after all the research I've done, I realized that he had the original recipe, the one.
Oh, wow.
In which they even done their own crystal malt from Pilsner, which is the only malt they can find.
Yeah.
And I contacted him and said, hey, we want to make it here. And then I got all my Argentinian friends, Colombian friends, Venezuelan friends, everybody from the group. We threw a big party, brewed a beer in honor of those guys. And I think that's the only recipe that we have respected. Exactly. Everything else, we usually do a little change here and there. That one, we did follow it exactly as it was. And it was a lot of fun. And from there, we've been growing, and we posted the video in my personal YouTube channel first. And then I started getting contacted by other Spanish-speaking brewers, and I realized there was a need for more content in Spanish. So we decided that we would do that, and you know, we've been doing it ever since, and the response has been really, really positive. We have a lot of fun. We don't do anything fancy. We shot it with my iPhone. We barely edited. It's part of the fun to show how everything goes and the mistakes, and you can see people laughing. You can see hoses flying around. You can see you can see the flame going out because of wind gust. So it's a lot of fun to do that. So I think it's been a great journey, and we've been learning a lot.
That's awesome. And I've watched. I will just put the outset now. I don't speak Spanish, and I've watched some of your videos. And when I told you this before you were recording, you were like, "Oh, the first one we did was in English." I was like, "That was the one I didn't watch," but but it's so great because you have this attitude of what you see is what you get, and that really is homebrewing in a lot of ways. That there are very technical homebrewers out there that make sure everything's perfect. I am more of a rough and tumble kind of guy. Like, I believe if something doesn't go wrong on a brew day, the beer will be wrong. And I just love like watching the video, and you're right, like things are crazy, but everyone's having a good time, and it's that community around it that is what I find really special about homebrewing.
Absolutely, and also we live in an area that is very diverse, so we want to also showcase that.
Yeah.
So Dan is from Chicago, and we have another friend who's from New Mexico. His name is Andrew, by the way. And we have people from Argentina and Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico.
Yeah.
Sometimes family are visiting them. With COVID, that has been a little bit rough, obviously. But like during Christmas, and they were asking, "Hey, can we brew a beer?" So. Yeah, let's come over. We'll come over with something. So it's and all ages, from people in their 20s all the way to people who are retired by having fun. So we enjoy that. It's a good representation of the city too.
That's awesome. So having started in 2020. Obviously before the world shut down. As you've been reaching out to Nico and brewing this beer, have you changed your approach in how you think about beer?
Correct. Yeah. So I think one of the challenges sometimes to being an engineer is that we want to convert everything into an engineering problem.
Yeah.
So at first I wanted to understand everything. I wanted to understand all the math behind it. Why they selecting these malts? Oh, gravity points. Oh, equations. I love it. So now I have an excuse to whip out the spreadsheet and I start plugging numbers in it. Even though there's software available, I wanted to understand it for myself.
Yeah.
And and that part, what started to happen was I started thinking, but that means I can replace this for this, and I get the same number.
Yeah.
Oh, that means I can. That means I can actually put more of this or less than that and get this other thing. And then we started getting into hops. And one of the areas, I think another thing that we were learning along the way is also to appreciate all the all the history of beer in Texas, especially thinking of the Germans that went and established themselves in the central Texas. So we drink a lot of Kolsch here. We love, and that's my wife's favorite beer. And the very first beer that actually I made with extras was a Kolsch because I knew she would like it.
Yeah.
And alt beer, for example. And so we're starting getting a little bit more consistent on the recipes, even though we weren't doing exactly that. We wanted to kind of respect at least the fundamentals. But also we start playing a lot with hops. And when we start getting into the pale ales, especially American styles, we start changing everything. And we start using a lot of Amarillo hops and hops that we like. Some of our friends heard about these other strange hops. We must use them. And some of the experiments,
Yeah.
as you can imagine, were interesting. Others were a little bit harsh. And then at some point after all that chaos, we started getting a little bit better organized and started scheduling what we're going to do. And our changes in weather here are very extreme. Our summers are very hot. So we start making more Kolsch and pale ales. We don't do lagers just because we don't have the patience of the equipment. We're still working with igloo, mash tuns, and pots and pans, as you saw in the videos. So we really don't want to wait 6 to 8 weeks to get a lager.
Yeah.
And so we are in the ales area, and as the cold weather starts rolling in, then we start getting into the brown ales, which is surprising. It could be surprising for people, but we have brown ale in Texas and a very established style from the people of Real Ale in Blanco, Texas, the Central Texas tradition also. And we have a smash IPAs. I think Yellow Rose is well known nationwide. And then we start brewing stouts, which is actually one of my favorites. And that's a beer that people ask us over and over and over to do it. So I think from December to, I have a stout in the fermenter right now.
Yeah.
Because everybody keeps craving in it. And as soon as the temperature starts going up in a month or so, we're going to switch to probably start doing pale ales and Kolsch.
Yeah.
So that's our approach, is like very dynamic. We're always trying to do something. And this year we're doing something different too. For St. Patrick's Day, we actually on Saturday, we brew a red ale, an Irish red. It's the first time we did it. And we're looking forward to drinking it on St. Patrick's Day, along with the stout. So that's our approach. We take basic recipes. We try to add a touch, play with the hops, or we want to respect the style. So English ales, we try to use English hops and English yeast. I tweaked a little bit some of the malt bill. But then for what I call American style, especially Texas styles, a lot of Quebec, is prominent. Especially we tend to brew those in the summer. And we like really strong hops, Amarillo hops, a lot of Cascade. Mosaic is another favorite. And then we get in the traditional part with the brown ales and the amber ales and the stout. We get more rigid, and the recipes are kind of locked. Like we never going to change it again. That's exactly how we're going to do it from now to to when we can brew more.
How many times would you say you brew a beer before you're like, that's it, that's the one?
Most of them, I will say 2 or 3 times,
Hmm.
and every time I don't have the best palate, but I do have friends. Dan especially has an amazing palate, and I remember that we brew a pale ale and we try to play a little bit, uh, reducing the amount of crystal, putting a little bit of Vienna, trying to
Hmm.
play a little bit, and I drank and I say, "Oh, this is awesome," and then we'll be like, "I don't know." I think he has this taste, he has this, and then thinking about it, it's like, oh, he's right. I mean,
Hmm.
so we had to change it again, and so by the third try, the word we use in the group is like this recipe is locked, and
Yeah.
and that's it. We don't revisit it anymore, and we put it on the schedule, and we make it exactly the same.
Yeah. Being an engineer, what is the. Because, I mean, everyone starts from extract to all grain, and that was one of the most frightening brew days of my life, was my first all grain batch, because I had no idea what I was doing. Like, how did you approach the difference from going from extract to all grain?
So the funny thing about it was we had been brewing with extracts for a year and a half, and we were more than happy with it, right? So
Hmm.
we never really put a lot of thought on the all grain. The What really triggered that was we kept making this colors, and I was not happy with the color
Yeah.
because and we tried everything, putting a little bit of extra, put everything at the end. At some point, we even boiled water with hops only and put all the extract at the very end, and still the color was wrong.
Yeah.
So I said, let's make a colch. We're gonna go all grain, and you are 100% right. It was so frightening
Hmm.
to get that water and then put it on the. First of all, we make our own mash tun, right? So we went to the Home Depot, got our cooler, went to our local brew shop, got all the kit, put it together, and and then we said, okay, this is it. Let's go and do it.
Yeah.
And it went actually worked out pretty well. It was not as hard as we thought. Um, and then, I was also surprised about how different in flavor it was versus the extract version. And then we said we start converting all our locked recipes on extract into all grain and playing some of the grains like on the pale ales, playing with Maris Otter, for example. Now it's like my absolute favorite. And it completely changed the way it tastes, we think about it, and that's what we've been doing. We basically have converted everything into all grain.
Yeah.
Though from time to time, like our stout with extracts is really good.
Yeah.
We just switched that one to grain just this December,
Yeah.
and it turned out really, really great.
Hmm.
So and because we do everything by hand, like we don't have any electrical equipment, we don't have any pumps to control the temperature or any
Hmm.
temperature control. We still enjoy that part that we put the water, we think we calculate everything, and then you take the measurement. It's like crap. We do
Oh
like
no.
no, it was supposed to be 152. And then on those cases we say, like, what is the motto? They say relax, don't worry,
Have a homebrew.
home, and that's it. And then let's get the grill going while we wait for the
Yep.
mash to end, and let's not get too concerned about it. So sometimes you get too caught up on the technical stuff, and I myself get caught up on the technical stuff, and I said I calculated that it should be the the gravity before the boil had to be 1036, and I got 1034. Damn it! So so that overcoming that part and just saying, oh, come on, guys,
Yeah.
let's. This,
Point three is not gonna hurt you.
it took me a while to accept those things,
Yeah.
especially because we try to be precise on our jobs, and that's how we are wired to be. So
Hmm.
this has been a positive experience on that regard. That is like, come on, let's relax, and the beer came out great. So
Yeah.
what's the problem?
Precisely. You and I are probably very opposite in our approaches though, because mine is always like, close enough. It'll be fine. But what I've learned is just because you don't hit that original OG, I have, like, for some reason, my yeast tends to always over attenuate. So I get the ABV that I'm looking for anyway. So, like you say, relax, don't worry, have a homebrew.
Absolutely. Actually, that's what happened with our Dorada Pampeana. We over attenuate. Everything was exactly the same,
Yeah.
and our final gravity was like 5 points less. So we actually got a little bit more alcohol, and I said, I don't think I can taste it. I mean, there's absolutely no scenario.
No.
I'm not trained to to really do this, and we have learned to relax. Like, sometimes I said I'm too lazy to do a batch parts today, guys. So let's put all the water in. I,
I
I
like
don't
how
want
you've
to.
gone for like one of the easiest methods to an
Yeah,
even easier method.
and then it's like, but we're not gonna get efficiency. And so like, no, it's too hot today, especially when it's summer in the summer.
Yeah.
It's like let's just get it over with. You'll
How
be okay.
how do you deal with the cool down in that? Because I know in Colorado, chilling in the middle of summer is just a pain, and you feel like you're wasting water. Like, how do you chill in Texas?
So what we do is we have a standard picnic cooler, and we fill it up with ice, and
Hmm.
I have a submersible pump. And then what we do is a very simple system in which we use an immersed chiller, just a standard copper immersion chiller. We fill this cooler with water, and then just start pumping ice water. And the first 3 to 5 gallons come out pretty hot. Those you
Hmm.
have to take away. And then the rest we put it in, and it's been very effective. Like, we can get as low as 65 degrees
Oh wow.
doing that pretty fast. Sometimes when it's really, really hot, and then you see that ice melting so fast, what I end up doing now, we have a fermentation chamber.
Yeah.
We made it which is a simple, ice chest with an ink bear. That's all there is in my garage.
Yeah.
So then we just bring it in and let it cool down. But
Hmm.
if we're using Kvike, once we are like at 85 degrees, that's
Boom, just throw it.
so
You can
it is
throw it
done.
in at 100. It's
Yeah,
insane.
it's and the most insane thing is seeing that yeast taking off within. You pitch it, and in 3 hours, you have the craziest bubbling you'll ever see in an airlock. The first time I got scared, I thought it would blow up.
Yeah.
I could not believe, first of all, how fast it started fermenting, and the amount of bubbles, and fill it up with star sand, so just foam everywhere coming out of the top of the thing. So it is insane, and it was done in 3 days. Like,
Yeah.
I could not believe it the first time, and it's the coolest thing in the world. I haven't done the extreme experiments of putting like it in the garage where it's like 100 degrees.
Yeah.
It's something that we may do this year. We've been doing a lot of small batches to test different things, like 3 gallons, 2 gallons, something like that. So I think we're gonna do an experiment in which we're gonna wait till like August that it gets 104, 105 degrees, and put it outside. See, just to see what happens.
Yeah.
I think it would be pretty cool.
So, and are you using Kvike with your Kolsch?
We no for the German beers we use the appropriate yeast, like we
Okay.
use a corn yeast. We use the Kvike on the pale ales, American pale ales. We have used the Kvike on a wheat ale.
Hmm.
We have used the Kvike. I even use the Kvike. I was looking at my notes. We repeat that pale ale a lot. It's very popular among the group and
Hmm.
among friends and neighbors. And we have used them all: Ordinal, Voss, Hothead, Lutra.
Hmm.
We haven't tried this new one from like Lithuania or something like that, but mostly pale ales do really well, in our opinion, with Kvike. wheat ales too. Kvike is, I mean, the American wheat ale, no Hefeweizen, do really well. And any blonde ale, we did a beer. We have a bunch of leftover hops. We have like zero point 0.2 ounces of this, zero point 0.2. So we decided to do a crazy ale for a birthday, and it's one of our favorite beers. And I don't know if we'll ever be able to reproduce it. But we use Kvike on that because that's what we had on hand at the time that we decided to brew it, and it came out really well for a blonde. That one we didn't want any type of those tropical flavors, so we fermented it around 70 degrees just to keep it in the cleaner side, and that was a Kvike hothead. We have realized that if we keep it under 80, it's very very clean. If we want those tropical notes, we try to get to the mid 80s, in the 90s.
Yeah.
Which in the summertime is really easy to achieve here.
I would love to hear more about the beer if I could do I'm afraid I cannot pronounce it, and I don't.
No worries. It's Dorada Pampeana.
Sorry, how do you say it?
Dorada Pampeana.
Pampeana.
Yes, so Dorada means golden.
Mm-hmm.
Gold, and Pampeana refers to the plains in Argentina, the Pampas, which most of the cattle is raised and very famous, and they're very proud of the Pampas in Argentina. That's where the gauchos come from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very fitting name for that brew. And the story behind it is there's a group of home brewers in Argentina, and some people say it happened decades ago, which is even more impressive. At the time, they could get their hands on like Pilsner from commercial breweries. They would actually go and they will give them enough Pilsner to work. They learned how to do their own crystal malt by basically taking part of the Pilsner grain and roast it, following. I think you have to soak it in water and then roast it. And they could only get dry yeast over there, either Nottingham, SafAle you could get at the time. So the recipe became simple in that regards. And then for hops, they do grow hops in southern Argentina, in the Patagonia. So probably you have heard about Patagonian hops. They're hard to get in the U.S., but you can get them. I have not been able to get a sample of it, but I know people who have used them.
Yeah.
They're mostly Cascade is probably the number one. So not surprising the beer uses Cascade. And it's a beer designed to be an easy drink, to appeal to even non-beer drinkers, being a country in which wine is the number one product consumed. Young people like beer, but most people are really wine people. So it has very low amount of bittering, just 25 units.
Okay.
So they only have hops for bittering. There's no other hops. Some versions add some hops later on the boil, but the original version, and we wanted to stick with the original, it's only for bittering hops. So it's a very relatively simple beer to make. So it's just Pilsner malt is the basis, and some Cristal 30. It can be lower. A little bit of Cascade at the beginning of the boil, and then just SafAle S-04 for yeast. And the beer is really easy to drink. It's really nice. It's designed to be drunk fresh within 2-3 weeks after you condition it. We don't keg. We still bottle. That's something we've been thinking about getting into, but I think we use the bottling day as another excuse to get together and drink. So I don't know. It's part of the dynamics of the group.
See, you're lucky because none of my friends ever want to help bottle. And so I had to get into kegging because my wife helped me a couple of times, and then she was like, "You're getting into kegging." So it's a good problem to have. And then when we were we have a barrel project we'd be doing, my friends are around, so we were having a bottle from that, and they were just complaining the entire time. And it's like, but we gotta do it in bottles for this. So
Exactly, especially if you want to save something,
yeah,
you want to do those, like barley wines or things like that.
yep,
You're gonna have to go back to bottles. So we are bottling, and especially since lately we've been doing small batches, it goes really fast.
yeah,
Like 2.5 gallons is just 24 beers. It's just you don't even notice when you're done.
no,
And we have it down to a science, and we are incredibly fast doing it. Since we do it so many times.
yeah,
Um, so the beer is really is it was really interesting because a lot of our friends, especially from Argentina, that we've been here in the States for such a long time, they had no idea that this was happening in their home country. So a lot of them have gone back for once restrictions were lifted and they were able to see family. They were amazed to see that home brewing is really taking off in the
that's
country.
awesome.
Craft breweries are popping all over the place from basically home brewers that now have decided to go commercial, and the Dorada Pampeana maintains its place in the lore of the homebrewers. Every homebrewer wants to make it and wants to showcase it.
Yeah,
So we decided to play homage to them, and through Nico Cervecero and his amazing YouTube channel, and he shows the recipe and every step. You can see all his equipment is homemade. He made it himself, all the mash tun and the chilling equipment. It's really impressive, and he grows his own hops too.
oh
So
wow,
it's beautiful to see his plants. They have the weather and the soil. In southern Texas, it's really hard to grow hops. Some people have tried, but our summers are just too long,
hmm,
hot, and too humid. It's difficult. Um, so they basically have figured out a way to get the ingredients and take care of most of their needs themselves. And they are very well organized to the point that you can actually sign up for classes of
oh wow,
homebrew over there. It's exploding. And I know in Peru, I know in Chile, Brazil has always had a tradition of homebrew into Mexico, obviously. So my brother lives in Panama, and he says that there are home brewers in Panama popping out too.
oh
And
wow,
some of them even thinking about going on the craft route. So we're really excited about this, and we're really excited. I get really excited when I receive notes from Peru or Chile, and we made a video of how to propagate yeast from commercial bottles by doing a mini match of grains because they don't have extracts over there. They cannot get DME over there.
yeah,
It just basically doesn't exist. So they were saying, "Oh, we watch all these videos and people take this powder and mix it and boil it. We don't have that. How we can do this?" So we kind of figured out, oh, you know what we could do? We could just boil a bunch of this stuff in, just 4 or 5 ounces of grain on a stove, and we tried and we did it, and it worked out perfectly. And we actually did an IPA with the yeast that we propagated, and
oh
it
wow,
was pretty successful. So it's really cool to also think about the fact that a lot of things that we take for granted, that we can get any ingredient we want, basically any yeast we want, is not really the case. And they are very ingenious and creative, and I have great admiration for them.
hmm,
So we really wanted to pay homage to that, and that's why we decided to make the video in English too, so anybody in the world could see it and connect through us and connect to them in Argentina as well. And so that was a very exciting project, and my heart goes to Nico and his crew over there because they do amazing stuff with very little.
yeah. That's amazing, and we'll be putting in the recipe in our show notes, and we'll put in the link to the video as well, so everyone can go see it because that just sounds such a great watch.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it, and I really, it's really something for us. We get pretty emotional when we talk about it because
Yeah.
some of my friends, especially seeing their home country represented, was something that was very touching,
Hmm.
and we had a great time doing it,
Yeah.
an amazing time.
So, on the flip side, what is the beer that you guys brewed and you're like, we are never doing this again?
you know, we do have a couple of those, of course. One of them didn't even made it to the fermenter. Talking about all grain disaster, I think that was our second all grain brew,
Yeah.
and I was doing that with the group, and we did everything right. We heat up the strike water. We put it on the mash tun. We put the grains. We did the whole thing. Temperature was perfect. Closed the lid. Went away for an hour. I think we cooked some food and had a
Hmm.
couple of beers. And then, okay, guys, it's time to recirculate. Let's bottle up. And I opened the valve. Absolutely nothing is coming out.
Oh no.
And we were doing a pale ale, so we have some Maris Otter, I think a little bit of Cristal. Nothing. We didn't have any rye or wheat or
I was gonna
anything like.
say nothing sticky in there.
Absolutely nothing, and nothing that we haven't done before. Well, it was our second all grain, so for in terms of all grain, it was the first time.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's nothing flowing. Absolutely nothing. And they say, okay, let's move it a little bit. Let's. We did absolutely everything. Nothing. So what we said was, okay, let's move it into a bucket, see if we can figure out what the problem is.
Huh.
Now we move it into a bucket. Now I'm trying to unplug this. The false button had moved and it got stuck.
No.
So I unstuck it. We put it back in. At this point, we've been oxygenating the things back and forth for like and it refused to flow. So at that point, we said, "Okay, guys, I don't think this is going to work." So we dump it and put it in the compost bin. So no beer for us. So that was one, and the other one was a wheat ale that we made. And I don't know what happened, but after we bottled it, as soon as we opened the first bottle, half of the beer just spilled out. It was so overcarbonated.
Yeah.
And I say, oh no, maybe I didn't, stir it well when we put the priming sugar. Every single one of the 50 beers was exactly like that. We, you open it up, you lose three-quarters of the beer, and the rest is just a foamy mess.
The
No,
bottle rocket.
and it smells good, it tastes good, so I don't think it was any contamination. And I'm sure, I mean, we buy the 5 ounce packet of sugar, so there's absolutely no scenario that we put more.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened there. And our third disaster was our attempt to do a red ale. I wanted to experiment with this red X malt that everybody's talking about. So
Yeah.
let's do one. It looked exciting. Our local shop didn't have it on stock, and based on the schedule, I just ordered it. I ordered a meal, and when I got it, I kind of look at it. I called the shop. Hey, are you sure this is meal? Oh yeah, yeah, that got meal. And we put on, we mashed it, and we missed the gravity like by 10 points. I wasn't even close. Like it was, it was, and then we said, well, okay, whatever. We brew it. We went through the whole process, and but that beer, I mean, we drank it. It
Yep.
was drinkable,
You didn't get
but
drunk?
it was like 2.5% alcohol. But I mean, we drank it, but it was kind of astringent, and
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy. We drank it because we needed the bottles, but
Hmm.
but I really didn't like it. Though a couple people in the group did like it, so that there you go. So, but to me, that beer was not good.
Yeah.
So those are our three.
That you're not going back to. Yeah, no, I've had the bottle rockets. I've never missed a gravity by 10 points, so that's pretty impressive.
That was we basically just steeped the grains for 1 hour. There's no way that stuff was built correctly. But hey, listen, it happens. So
As I always say, if something doesn't go wrong on a brew day, it's not a brew day.
absolutely, absolutely,
That's my version of relax, don't worry.
exactly, exactly. And in a way, it's kind of weird. And we just laugh at it and we say, hey, didn't work out, and we actually repeated it again, and it turned out great. So.
It's awesome.
So it's just one of those things that can't control every variable. It's not possible. It's part of the fun of the hobby is that the uncertainty and the artisan part about it is really what gets me excited. It's like you can do everything right, you don't know what could happen.
Yeah.
That to me is the coolest thing about it.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I brewed 2 beers. Exactly that. Everything went right. It was perfect. Everything clean. And they both got infected. And I was like, those are my quarantine beers. And yeah, it's that thing, like, you can do everything perfectly, but there's always chance for some. So we've added your beer to the tap list. So now I want to hear about your perfect homebrew pub. What is it called? What's the vibe?
Oh yes. Well, being in the Houston area, we have to stay with the aesthetics of the homebrew. So it will have a huge patio. We are big on patios here.
Yeah.
It could be 100 degrees and we are in the patio. And we're going to be playing cornhole. There's going to be cornhole. That's like our national pastime here. And I will add a bocce court because we love playing bocce too. And ping pong tables are a must, as well as an area for big Jenga, with the big blocks. String lights are a must also in the patio. But inside, I would love that to be like an English pub. I think this year we're going to get more into brewing beers that, in my opinion, are underrated, like an English mild. I don't know why we don't make more of those. I think that's very underrated. So we will try our hand on one of those. And red ales. I'm a big fan of English red ales, stouts and brown ales, porters. I love all English beers. I love them. So I would love the inside to be like an English pub. I like that vibe. I like the with the tables around the bar that you're not sitting down, everybody's just standing up.
Yep. You're speaking to my youth.
Exactly. And with the pool tables, and you can see we have a lot of games going on in this bar. We do it here. I would love to have like a backgammon night.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or now people are playing chess again, which is great. I was never very good at it, but that'd be great. And that type of vibe, the English pub inside, and people just enjoying ales, and we will only serve ales. That's it, with no lagers.
Okay.
You want a lager, you'll get a Kolsch. and that's very much when you go to the breweries here. That's kind of the vibe. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of community. People are really proud of their local brewery, especially they live in the neighborhood. They're loyal, and there's always packed to the wazoo. I love that of the beer culture in the Houston area, and of course you have to have the food trucks.
Yes.
Especially, you gotta have barbecue, but also you go to these places, you can get Vietnamese food, or you can get Chinese food, or you can get, obviously you can get tacos, but you can also get Venezuelan arepas. You can get, Korean barbecue. You can get ramen noodles. I mean, it's so much fun to have, a city which 90 languages are spoken.
Yeah.
So there's food from everywhere and people from everywhere. So it's a ton of fun, and I would love our home brew pub to be exactly representation of that.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And what would it be called?
I have to stick with the name. It has to be called the Venture.
Well, I mean, it would be because, I mean, you've got the Houston patio, you've got the old English pub vibe, and then you've got international cuisine and food trucks. I mean, that is the definition.
That is the best explanation I've heard, Andrew. So that's perfect. I'm glad that somehow I arrived to the right answer without realizing it.
Well, that just sounds like one of the greatest places on earth to hang out, and we have now magically transformed into Venture Brewing. So,
Amazing.
cheers!
Cheers, mate.
Clink! I want to say a huge thank you to Ramon for coming on. That was such a great chat. Please go and check out his YouTube videos. I've linked them in the episode description along with the recipe. Another thank you I need to give is to our Patreon supporter at the guest brewer level, Gamdude. Thank you so much for your support, and actually Gamdude will be coming on for a future episode of the podcast. And of course, thank you so much for listening. If you could leave us a 5-star review wherever it is you get your podcast, that'll just help other people find the show. If you want to reach out to us, possibly come on and share a pint with me, you can reach us at our website, thehomebrewpub.com, or email landlord@thehomebrewpub.com, or on social at The Homebrew Pub on Instagram and Twitter. And if, like me, you hate those annoying ads, well, we've got to keep the lights on here at The Homebrew Pub somehow, so consider joining our Patreon and becoming a Mug Club member. For $3 a month, you'll get access to ad-free versions of the episodes. But until then, grab your favorite pint, put your feet up, relax, don't worry, and have a homebrew. Till next time, cheers.